What's up guys, Sodor Railway Studios here, and welcome to another voice ranking video. Today we're going to be looking at Mr. Splendid himself, James the Red Engine. Not much to talk about here since you all know the drill by now, but please remember that this is entirely my opinion. So without further ado, let's get started. Coming in at last place, we have Susan Roman.
You weren't concentrating, Thomas. Lucky for you that the buffers were there. I'm feeling a little blue, which isn't so hot when you're red. I was naughty and Sir Topham Hatt told me to think about all the ways I can be really useful. Then I can come out again.
I won't go into much detail about why I don't like Susan's James voice, and you should all know by now. Not only does James sounding like a woman not work for very obvious reasons, but he just sounds so young too. Though her performance is actually quite good if you pretend it's not James she's voicing, so I guess there's that. Coming up next, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but it's Rob Rackstraw.
Here's James! I can't help being fast, Emily. Yes, I remember all that. But I got rid of my wooden brake blocks, and I was painted red. So good things came out of that accident, and I don't have brake problems anymore.
Now, I get why so many people like Rob's voice for James, but for me, he always sounded way too obnoxious in my opinion. Like he was trying too hard to sound cocky. It could also be because of how unlikable James became in later CGI seasons. I'm looking at you, Apology Impossible. Overall, his US voice is actually the one I find to be the more tolerable, surprisingly, so I guess there's that. And Rob is evidently a great voice actor, so I'm not going to be too hard on him. If you like his James voice, that's fine, but he's really not for me. Next up on the list is Kerry Shale.
I will be the smartest engine on the whole island! But, sir, I'm not ready! Oh no, pink is a silly color! I don't want anyone to see me looking silly.
I will admit I quite like Kerry's take on James, but at the same time he sounds a bit too deep, if that makes sense. Though he does definitely sound the most arrogant in my opinion, which fits perfectly with James's character. My overall thoughts on Kerry's James is that it was decent for its time, even if I may not like to listen to it over and over again. Coming up next is Stephen Donald.
What are you doing here, Thomas? I came into the siding a bit too fast, and I bumped into the buffers very hard.
I don't have much to say about Stephen Donald, because he only voiced James in the Railway Adventures game, but overall it's a pretty good voice. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Angelis was the inspiration for the accent he gave him. Speaking of which, my number 2 choice is Michael Angelis.
You weren't concentrating, Thomas. Lucky for you that the buffers were there. My wheels were feeling worn out with work, so Sir Topham Hatt told me to think about all the ways I can be a really useful engine. And when I have, I can come out again.
I'm not surprised that so many people consider Michael Angelis to be the best James voice, since he is my favourite narrator after all. Not to mention, he would have fit James so much better in Magic Railroad. Though for me, I always found his James voice to be slightly overrated, hence why it's not at the top. But it's still a fantastic voice, and probably one of my favourite voice performances from good old Michael. But now on to number 1. And my number 1 choice is Keith Wickham.
I will be the smartest engine on the whole island! But, sir, I'm not ready. Oh no, pink is a silly colour. I don't want anyone to see me looking silly.
I know this is probably going to be controversial, but I personally love Keith Wickham's take on James. Sure, his screaming in Tale of the Brave and The Adventure Begins is a bit cringe, but I've never had an issue with it personally. And let's be real, how can you call this voice too nasally when Rob Rackstraw is just as bad? No offense to him, of course. Overall, I consider Keith Wickham to be the best voice for James. But if you disagree, then that's perfectly fine. Opinions are opinions, after all. And that's about it for this video. As usual, I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to let me know in the comments which voice for James is your favourite. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own personal preference? The next episode is likely going to focus on Gordon, so stay tuned for that when it comes out. Until then, I've been Sodor Railway Studios, you've been simply the best, and have a great day. Bye!